we've clearly been working with Picnic now for a few years, and we've got to know you over that time. But since you started the company with your esteemed colleagues back in 2015, what's been the secret that pulled you together and actually drove you into this area in the first place?
Thank you for asking this question. And this is a very valid question. And I think it all comes down to consumer proposition. So it is not about the bottle of Coca-Cola or the cucumber, but it's about how you order, how you deliver, how you receive, and as a customer, your interaction with the provider. And we figured out when we did research, there were 3 reasons why consumers were not buying groceries online. And one was that they felt it was expensive because they had to pay a surcharge, a delivery fee. And so we looked for a model where we could remove the delivery fee. Second, they didn't want to wait at home. So there were 2 options, pick up at some pickup point or home delivery. And usually the home delivery slots were 2 to 4 hours and perceived as very long. So we had to work on a model that we could be in 10 or 20 minutes precise at your doorstep. And we also figured out quickly that consumers prefer to get the groceries delivered to their home rather than picking them up, because there's a high repetition. You do it a couple times a week. And there's, of course, lots of kilos and volume that you are dragging into your house. And the third reason was that ordering groceries was not so easy. If you buy something at Amazon, you buy 1 or 2 items. But if you buy groceries, you easily buy 30 or 40 items. And so we had to find a way to do the 5-minute shopping trip, as we call it. And this was also at the let's say pinpoint of changing from desktop to mobile. And so we chose to go for an app-only implementation of the store. So these were the kind of 3 reasons why it was held back, and where we put I think a successful alternative to it. And we kind of combined that with what we call the milkman run, and this has resulted in a customer proposition that was hugely adopted by consumers everywhere we go, whether it's in the Netherlands or in Germany, a very similar way, and also allowed us to operate in an efficient manner. Most of the time we focus on our customers, and we don't really focus on competitors all the time. So we strive to deliver excellent quality of service and more to our customers. But every now and then we raise our head and we look around us. And let's say from the start of Picnic, we have already planned for automation of warehouse operations. And I think I started doing this in the first modeling and visiting sites and talking to suppliers. I think it was 2012. So even 3 years before we launched Picnic, this kind of came to our mind. And as we had no experience in this field, we had to kind of build that experience. And we noticed that in Europe, there is more a tendency to build, let's say, larger fulfillment centers on bigger scale, as Ocado has built them. As a few others have done or tried to, whereas let's say in the US, the focus has been on these MFCs, micro fulfillment centers, and the MFCs seem to be kind of very popular in the US, but however we don't see any of it in Europe, and so that has caught our attention. And as you know, we decided to go for a larger scale fulfillment center. I'll talk about that in a minute. And when we look at these MFCs, where they are trying to process, let's say, on-demand orders, we see quite some challenges in making those types of operations and sites successful and efficient. And many of these MFCs are done by traditional retailers. Now, obviously, we don't have stores, but if you have stores around and you have spare space, you can maybe bolt it on to your store. So at least you have access to stock, etc. But the cost of getting the stock to the MFC is also considerable, because it basically passes the entire store-based supply chain of that retailer. And so there's an additional cost before you have your goods in and start processing. Whereas in the European situation, with larger scale fulfillment centers, they are sized in such a way that we can have direct delivery by, let's say, a large chunk of suppliers and inbound. and therefore our inbound cost is very low in such centers. So that is a considerable difference between the two. Now, as you know, customers can order with us today for tomorrow, tomorrow morning, tomorrow evening, and as a result, we can predict quite precisely the number of orders we will get, and even also the composition of those orders. And as a result, we can also plan the supply chains and plan the operations. And we think that is a big difference compared to MFC operations if they are fully on-demand based, which seems to be a little bit the nature in the US. You know, we have not done any significant warehouse automation so far. So this is our first big project. And so we don't bring a lot of experience to the table, but I think we do bring some very good brains in our young team to the table with loads of energy and with loads of perseverance. And these are the three, let's say, determining elements that we have learned that can bring us a long way, whether it is in our last mile model or other areas of Picnic. And so we're also bringing that, if you want, to the table over here. And of course, we surround ourselves with some experts left and right on certain topics to learn about it. And I think the combination of the long-standing experience of TGW on the automation side and the hardware and the PLC side, and the experience of Picnic, where we have developed about all our software systems ourselves, and so are also taking a significant role in the control side of this project, is indeed very exciting. And I think the cooperation we have built in that sense is quite unique, and it is unique to Picnic, but I think also unique to TGW, that TGW has not really done this before in such a way. And I think that is also a good foundation. And currently, and we are not at the end of the project yet, so many exciting things might still come our way, of course. But the start has been very, very positive. And I think for me, a big element of success in such a complex, large-scale project with so many dimensions and angles, etc., is the level of transparency that we've been able to bring between the two teams.
The thing that makes us proud for TGW is around what both parties are bringing to the party. So when you're looking in an environment that's as dynamic and as changing as we do find in e-com grocery, I think, and Picnic will have to speak for themselves, but TGW and Picnic were looking at something that was, how do you find the right partnership? And ultimately, you're trying to look at each other and understand what's their core capabilities and how do they fit with our capabilities. In the end, I see it a little bit as we're two technology companies, effectively. And this mindset that you get with technology companies realizes that the challenge is very large. So what you're looking for is somebody who complements what you offer. TGW as a technology company is very vested in the hardware of the automation, the concept of moving goods through a warehouse efficiently. What Picnic bring, of course, is their wider technology, their platforms, their understanding of the ordering system, supply chain, and also into the operating area of the warehouse. And between us both, and their unique proposition that Picnic have as well in their service offering, brings something we as individuals find exciting. So it's an exciting company to work with in Picnic. And also, finally, I'd say there's a little bit in the cultures that align. There is this, Picnic bring this very exciting mindset where everything's possible and can be developed and can be changed and can be challenged. And for our people inside TGW, this is a great environment to be working with. And it's a great company to be working with. So the individual level, not just on TGW, but the people who work for TGW love working on this project, because the energy that's created when you're working with the people at Picnic is a great one. What I've seen between the two teams, it is refreshing. Yeah, it is a new experience where you've seen two teams of people who are finding challenges, because this is not the normal ground anymore. This is new ground. What you're seeing is, as the challenges come along, certainly what you see within the Picnic team, there is this aptitude for learning incredibly quickly and asking questions about everything that we do, yeah, to the level that we're not really used to. But we found this refreshing approach. And it's generated in our own people something that then they've become excited about learning in return.
A consumer places an order, and with that consumer, many other consumers. There's a certain cutoff time. And before that cutoff time, and the day before, and the days before, and the weeks before, we have made many forecasts. We have forecasted how many orders we will get and how many consumers will place an order, whether it's a first, second, third order, etc. We also have forecasted what we are likely to sell. So how many cucumbers, how many bottles of milk, etc., etc. And this also results, of course, in let's say inbound forecasts and orders to suppliers, so that we have the right quantities in the warehouse of goods, and the right quantities being to provide excellent order completeness, 99+%, as well as a very, very, let's say, low waste, which should be 75% lower than any than waste in stores. So that requires a lot of forecasting. So once all the orders are in, we first start to allocate the orders to, let's say, totes, to crates. And in some cases, we allocate multiple orders to a tote or crate. And in some cases, that'll be an individual tote to an individual order. And we do so based on the dimensions and fill rate and let's say cubic space in a tote, as well as fragility aspects, because you should not place, let's say, a 6-pack of Coke onto an avocado, clearly. So there's a lot of sequence constraints in that particular tote. And so once we know how many orders, how many totes your order is, we are actually doing our famous trip planning, which is completely proprietary for a milkman run. That is, I dare to say, probably the most efficient available in the world. And out of that comes which orders are together in which trip, and which delivery trip is leaving at what time, from which hub, with which driver, and what experience, and many, many more aspects, including weight and volume again, and also timing. And as a result, we know also when those orders should be outbound from the warehouse. And so that kind of drives, if you want, the heartbeat of the production in the warehouse, which orders are produced first and last, etc. And then towards the production moment, we envisage that also customers can still change their orders very late in time until just before production, and then our automated warehouse should be able to serve those changes also to consumers, and that brings, let's say, on demand very close by.
And from TGW's point of view, the request from Picnic was quite simple. It's got to be super fast and super flexible, because to meet all of the needs of being able to cut off at the last possible time, to deal with your aubergine on top of your, to deal with your packs of beer put on top of your aubergine, you have to be able to sequence things in the right way around the warehouse, but still maintain the most productive and effective route through the system. There's lots of components to the warehouse. The easiest way I could describe it from a customer order is that we have this central engine this central shuttle system, or fulfilment engine, as we like to call it. And from this fulfilment engine, this is the horsepower that generates the movement of all the totes in and out of the system. But in and around the system, we've then developed and designed different peripheral systems. So we have inbound stations which receive the product from the suppliers as they're delivered. And of course, a great example is, of course, the Picnic customers like their bread fresh. So we receive bread in a certain way at the last possible moment to ensure that the customers have the freshest product, and it's delivered in the right sequence, and it's delivered as fast as possible. And from that, we've got stuff that travels into the engine, and we've broadly got two systems for picking. One that's for large, light, fragile items. So we want to protect them, and we want to make sure they're moved in their volume through man-to-goods system. And then we've got the rest of the items, the everything else, that will move through the engine and will work to our picking stations, which we will then pick the rest of the order from. They all then go back into the engine to be consolidated together and await the release time out to the order area to meet the Picnic sequence and demand for their route planning.
We are in the business of hiring the young boys and girls, graduates from university, super talented, that can learn fast, but obviously you need a bit of time to learn about automated centers, etc. I think this is our first big automation project. Big effort, and we are planning to develop numerous follow-up ones, and for those that'll not just be in the Netherlands. I think the challenge is also to standardize modules, software, maintenance, reporting, monitoring, and all of that in such a way that we can easily, or that we can reliably and predictably operate a significant number of such centers in a similar way. The core of the business model that we have is very, very solid, because I think we're in the heart and sweet spot of this market. Yeah. In the sense that we are mass market proposition, not just for the rich and famous. And so it is a service for the policeman, the nurse, and the teacher. Our business model has a lot of, let's say, add-on potential. We have started to take parcels, return. We could also do them outbound. And when we think about automating warehouse processes, we take such potential and potential processes also clearly into account.
We're undertaking the maintenance and the operation of a very large facility, and we're moving forward on a process where we're going to learn, we're going to refine it, we're going to optimize it, and we're going to perfect it. So I think the objective is, where we start is not necessarily where we end up. It's how do we make it quicker, better, more efficient? Where do we get the continuous improvements from? And I think with Picnic, where I think there is a difference from what we've seen in the past, that the separation of supplier and customer is a little bit joined. So there's more of a collaboration in trying to solve the problems we're going to have in the future. So the running of this operation, yes, for sure, we will have our obligations from a maintenance point of view, and there'll be obligations from an operator's point of view. But
I do feel that the model will be very hybrid in the sense, and clearly we for example, we aim to bring a lot of data-centric tactics to operations and also let's say maintenance. And that includes, let's say, state-of-the-art monitoring, alerting, reporting, all of that, where I think we have strong skills and experience, and we'd like to also extend that to the area of maintenance operations. So that and you know, TGW will come in with a significant team. We have not done this before, and I think together we will find the right balance in how we operate this.
I'd like to thank Frederik for the time. Thanks very much for today. It's really impressive to see that you can find the time in your busy schedule to say a few nice words. For TGW working with Picnic, as I've said during the process, I think we've really genuinely found a kindred spirit in terms of finding some excitement in this market and our daily activities. And it's certainly a market that is thriving, it's full of opportunity, and we hope it can continue for much longer to come. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And so do we, David. I think the more we advance, the more we get to grips with all sorts of different topics, we feel more energized and excited to make a fantastic result in let's say many automated warehouses. And so let's make this first one a great success. Thank you.